Hey guys, how's it going? It's Mac here with part 3 of the Instagram clone tutorial. Now, like I promised in this tutorial, we're actually going to be making the login API. So let's get started. So here is where we left off. Let me actually just bring everything into display real quick. 1 second. Here's the code we have. And this is where we left off. I'm actually going to gonna start the server real quick because I don't have it on. So for those following the tutorial, you should have the already server open, but let me just start the server real quick. So I'm gonna go to my files real quick and Instagram clone, backend, Laravel, and I'm going to cd into this directory. Just like so, and then I'm going to do PHP artisan serve. Sweet, that allows my server to not be online. Let's check that out. Close this, and okay guys, so we're back online. Gonna close this for now, and let's look at our code. So like I said, we're gonna be working on our login screen right now. First thing you need to do is create the API for it. So we're gonna create in our API folder where we left off last tutorial. For those new, this is in routes and API. If you don't know what route is, I kind of explained it in the last few minutes of our last video. So go check that out, guys. Link of the playlist is down below in the description. But anyways, for those following along, I'm gonna delete this and delete that. We can leave that, we're not really using that, but it doesn't really matter. For here, we're just gonna name this off/login. Off means authorization, so we're just gonna name the URL that we want. Now this is also gonna be a post. I'm gonna explain the difference between a post and a get in 1 second. Let's just keep this going. So this is actually gonna be a post. And I'm going to name this post login. Sweet. Now that we have that, let's go to our login API controller. For those who don't know where that is, it's in app, HTTP, controllers, login API controller. I have that file open right now. Let's delete all this. Public post login, public function. Post login, and I like to add a little comment on what this function does. So this is a function that handles the login system. Sweet. Now, what does a login system consist of? Well, in our app, we're just going to be using username and password. So that being said, all we need to do is get the username and password variable. Now, let me quickly explain what a post and get is. Now, if we open our Chrome, and for a quick example, I'm just going to go to google.com and search apples. If I go to apples, you see a whole bunch of things right here added into the URL. Now, Q equals apples. This is what we're looking for. This is basically a get variable, so a get route as well. So what this means is that Q is the value of whatever this is. Now we could do that. So in our app, it would basically be /login, and then it'll be like username equals whatever, and password equals whatever as well. We could do that, but we typically, in a professional environment, we don't do that for a login and sign up. We usually do that just to get data, not really to verify or update or delete data. So that being said, I'm trying to teach you guys how to do this in a professional environment. So let's do that. Now, to test a post, you can't test it on a browser. You need to test it on something called Postman. So if you go to Google and we search Postman, it will be the first link right here. Download Postman. I already have it installed. For those who don't have it installed, it's as easy as macOS. Download it, drag it to your application folder, and you're ready to go. So now that pause the video, install Postman, and once you have that, now let's open it. So I'm gonna go to my applications and Postman. Sweet. Now let me just make this smaller for you guys to see. Sweet. Yeah, I'll just delete this so we start over. So it gives you the option to test get and post. We're testing a post. We're going to enter the URL. So it's going to be http:/127, and I already have one here. So it is going to be API, and ours is actually called off, and then a login. So if we click this, just send, we get nothing. But just to test that it's actually going to this, let's go to our code right here and say return login page. Save that. Let's go to our Postman, click send, and we are getting this. Now just to show you that this will not work in the browser, let's copy this, open our browser, and go in here, and this page is not going to work because it's a post. Like I mentioned, the browser won't be able to execute that route. All right, now that being said, we can now start working on our login system. So when you typically send a form, you will have, you know, those variables that I mentioned. So those two variables that we're going to be using for our post, or basically our form, our login form, is username and password. So what we'll do is create a variable. This is how you create variables on PHP. I'm sure you guys already know that. If you don't, it's just $ with the variable name equals request. So requesting from the actual post, then we do input, and we get the variable name. So our variable name is going to be username, and let's just display this. So user name, just to make sure everything is working. So to test the post, you click body, and then in the key, see form data. So it'll basically be encrypting it in the post. So in here, our key is username, and my username is Macshdtutorials. Click that, and we get the post. Sweet. So everything's working, everything's connected. So now I'll do the same thing for the password. Copy this. Password. All right. Now that we have that, our next thing is simply verify the login. Now there's two ways you can typically do this. I'm going to show you a pretty simple way, and that's going to be using the Laravel method. So if we go to the Laravel documentation, they actually have a method already just to attempt the login, and all we have to do is Laravel login. Go to the documentation. We are using version 5.5, and if we scroll down a little bit, authorize, receive and authorize user. Nope. We want to attempt a login using credentials. So this is what we're going to be doing right here. So let's just copy and paste this right here. Also, there's nothing wrong with copy and pasting code. I mean, this is straight from the documentation. So full credit to them, but of course they put that so we can use it. Let's delete that part right here. And we're not going to be using, our login is not going to be using email. We could, but for this, Instagram does not use email as the login. They use a username. So here we're going to be using username, and password is already password. Let's change this to username, and sweet. All that looks good. Now we need to create this variable in our database. So let's go to PHP My Admin. Make sure you're on your Instagram database, users table, and we got ID, name, email, password, and all that good stuff that Laravel created for us. Now what we need to create is a new field with the name, after name, new column, and it's gonna be username. Varchar, max username length 50. And now sweet, we got that username variable ready to be used. Now a good practice is to always encrypt your password. So that being said, we need to encrypt the password. So I'm going to name this MD5_password. And MD5 is a function in PHP that encrypts the passwords for you. So click that right there. And we're going to be looking for the matched encrypted password. So if the login was successful, this is when we're going to return a JSON. Now JSON is just a structure, a structure way to display data. I'll explain it shortly. It's pretty simple. Don't worry about it, guys. So we're going to return. And here we're going to do two variables. Status. And the status is going to be 0. And message. And message is going to be login was unsuccessful. All right. Oh. Let's just, never mind. This code actually, let's copy and paste that, put that in the else, and let's put that there. So what this is saying is let's off message will actually be, so what this if statement is doing, it's going to attempt to log them in. If they were able to log in, meaning the username and password was correct, then basically let's return the user ID. The user ID, let's go to our database, is basically this parameter. This will let us know which user we are so we can show their timeline, their friends, and their profile. So we need to have that user ID. So to get that user ID, once we're there, we're going to get the user. So user equals user find, actually it was a user where username equals username. First, and here we're gonna get the user ID. Okay, hope that wasn't too confusing. Let's just test this to make sure everything is working, and I'll explain it as we go along. So let's, okay, we have an error. Let's see what the error is. Class HTTP controllers off, not found. So, okay, let's see why that could be. And most likely, I just gotta include that right there. That basically is a shortcut from doing this, but okay, sweet. So let's go to pretty. This way we display our JSON in a really nice format. And okay, here we go. So we got, I put in my username, I put in my password, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and I try to log in, and it'll say status 0, login was unsuccessful. Sweet, we got the login API working. Now how can we test it if we don't have an account? So let's just create this test account. This is what the test account we're going to be using through our app. So I'm just going to create a new route just to test stuff. We'll call it test. I'm going to make it a get and make account. Simple as that. Oh, give me a second, guys. My mouse actually disconnected for a second. All right. So in here, let's do public function make account, and let's simply just make that account. Now to add something to a database in Laravel, it's super easy. That's why I chose to make this tutorial using Laravel. So we make a new, so if I go to my database right here, we have our tables, users. Now each table, I believe I mentioned this in part 2, each table is linked to a model. Now Laravel always includes that user model for us. It's right here. So it already imports it for us. So, or I believe we imported it. But yeah, make sure you have this imported for those who are getting an error. And yeah, like I said, it always generates this file for us. So what we're gonna do is create a new instance of that model. So all we do is new user, and it's as simple as just giving each column values. So actually, I'm gonna pause the video for a second, guys, just so I can change the battery on my mouse. Yeah, so give me a second, guys. Let me just pause the video. All right, guys, I'm back. So like I said, it's as simple as basically giving each column a name. So that being said, I mean giving each column a what's it called, a value. So let's start with email, because email is one of them. So we got username, we got name, username, email, and password. These are the ones we want to fill. So actually, let's start with name. So name, my name is actually Mackenzie. Let's just put that there, Mackenzie. Then next one is email. Email is going to be Mackenzie@gmail.com. Make sure to end this how you end a line, a code line. Make sure you always end it. Next one is, let's go here. Next one is username. And my username is going to be Gray Matter Mac. And my password, password is going to be, now make sure, this could be a mistake, guys. So I wouldn't just enter my password here. I'm gonna make my password Mackenzie. I wouldn't just enter my password here. Remember, in the login system, we're testing for the MD5 password. So when I enter my database, I want to also import my password as an MD5. Really important, guys. If you don't do that, your login system is not going to work. So user save. Now the user save is really important. This basically is what's going to save this user into our database. So if I click enter, and what's the route again? It's /test. Let's go to it now. /test. Sorry, this page cannot be found. Let's just test our database real quick. Okay. /test did not work. It knows because we're actually in the API route. So we got to do /test. Sweet. No message. That's because we're not returning anything. That's perfectly fine. But let's just check our database real quick. Sweet. We got a user to test for. And now that we have a user, let's actually open our Postman and test this out. So my username was Gray Matter Mac. And my password was Mackenzie. Now if I test this out, login was not successful. Now let's check why that is. Okay, we're testing username, Gray Matter Mac, and password is Mackenzie. Let me just copy everything. Sweet. And username, Gray Matter Mac. Sweet. And login was not successful. And let's just check why that is. Remember, I'm doing this tutorial as a learning for you guys. So I'm gonna be going over my mistakes, not gonna be cutting anything out unless it gets too long. So everything looks good in the database perspective. So let's just close that. And let's take a look on why it's falling into here. Now I'm gonna actually return the MD5 password just so I can see what the value of it is. So, no, that should be right here. So MD5 password ends in Bada, B-A-D-A, B-A-D-A. So, okay, that is looking good. Username equals username and password equals password. And let me just do that real quick just to return that. And whoops, open the wrong thing. Okay, sweet, we got that going on. So why could this be going into the else? So let's take a look at this. Everything is looking good so far. Status was unsuccessful. So I'm actually gonna pause the video just so I can check this out and save you guys some of the headache. All right, guys, I'm back. So this auth attempt is actually not working for us. So we're actually gonna just go back to what this actual function is actually doing. So let's just do it ourselves. So we're gonna do user. Basically, we're gonna go to the user table, the user model, and where username equals username, and then we're gonna do another where password equals MD5 password. And we're gonna we only want the first column, basically the first result. There should only be one result, but we only want the first result. And that being said, that all looks good. And let's test it. So let me bring this back on display. And yeah, we get status 1, user ID. Basically, message is a user ID, which is 2. And if we go to our browser, browse, our user ID is actually 2. Sweet. All right, so we got the login API working. And on the next video, we're actually gonna be finally going into Xcode and coding this one part and getting the login screen for the app up and running. So I'll catch you guys in the next video.